Okay, we will go ahead and get started. My name is Scott Robbins. I'm the Vice President of Sales for LEA Professional, and I'm joined with my colleague Bradley Drummond, who is in charge of application engineering and our consultant relationships. I really appreciate everyone joining us today. We have over 60 people on the call. We'll probably have close to 100 here in the next couple of minutes as the rest of the people, as everyone else logs in. Very much value your time and very much value you giving us an opportunity to tell you about our product, which we're very excited about. So welcome, and with that, I'll turn it over to you, Bradley, to go from here. I think you're muted, Bradley.
Hey there. Sorry, I was muted. But yeah, thanks everyone for joining. We're going to go over some information today regarding third-party integration and the LEA Cloud, which is hopefully all going to be new information for you guys here. So with that, I'm just going to get started here. So a little bit of an overview. We're going to go through some of the connectivity options for our amplifiers. How do you connect to the amp for the web UI? How do you connect the amp so that it's on an external network? And how do you connect it so that it can gain cloud access? We're also going to talk about third-party integration, and we are going to discuss an open API that we are getting ready to release in our next firmware update. That'll be out in a couple weeks. That's going to be a new TCP protocol that we will have on board the amplifiers. And then we're going to go through a full, a little bit more in-depth cloud section, a little bit more in depth than you guys have seen before if you've joined one of our other webinars or met with us previously. So with that, we'll dive right into third-party integration. So just a bit of a refresher, the amplifiers have 3 ways to connect. You can connect them via wired Ethernet mode, Wi-Fi, so you can connect them to an external Wi-Fi network, or you can set the amp up to generate its own access point, so it will generate its own Wi-Fi network. Once you're connected, it's really easy. You look at the IP address on the front of the amp, you type that into your device that's connected to the same network in the web browser, and you're up and running in the web UI. So 3 easy ways to connect. However, if you're going to do third-party integration, really you should only use the wired or the Wi-Fi mode. These 2 modes allow the amp to go on to an external network rather than generating its own. So really this is the most stable way and really the only way in many scenarios to get other equipment on the same network besides just a tablet or a computer or a mobile phone. This is also the only 2 ways you can get internet set up on your device. So although we always talk about 3 ways to connect, if you are looking for third-party integration or getting your amplifier into the cloud, you're really down to 2 ways, so wired or Wi-Fi mode. So with regards to third-party integration API, we have been working with quite a few companies so far to get plugins available or third-party modules available. So far, we have released our QSC QSIS Plugin. We are working with quite a few other companies to get official modules or plugins made. So we're working with Uteligy, Crestron, Atlona, Extron, AMX, and Kramer to try and get some plugins made. So some of those will be official from the manufacturers. Some of them are going to be sort of third-party created, kind of user-created things that we'll be able to share with our customers as well. But we've been doing this actually recently with our current API that we haven't opened up, but we have created a newer API that we'll be talking about in just a little bit here. So kind of going through what we do have available today. So this is a screenshot of our QSC QSIS plugin. So it doesn't give you the full functionality of the amplifier, but it does give you quite a lot of useful controls and monitoring on board. So you can change the output levels. So you've got output level attenuation control. You've got control over the channel mutes. And then you can pull up the device information, the amplifier status, load monitoring and pilot tone. That'll actually give you the impedance readouts as well as the sort of okay or not okay, depending on how you've got your min and max values set there. You've got your input meters, output meters, fault monitoring. And what's nice about this one plugin is it supports all of our amplifier models. So you can see it's got 8 channels available in the plugin. In this screenshot, I connected a 4-channel amplifier to it, so it just populates the first 4 of those channels. So this one will work with all of our current models that we have available today. So we have, just a side note to this, we have done this communication through WebSockets on port 1234, if you want to get into the details there. That's a little bit different than the open API that we are going to be talking about in another slide here. So coming in our next firmware release, and we're hoping this is going to happen in the next 2 to 3 weeks. We're just going in the final testing for this now. We're going to be releasing an open TCP Control Protocol. This is going to communicate on TCP port 4321. It's a pretty straightforward type of command structure. So it's a single line command, and you always get a response back, even if it's an error, an okay, whatever the value is you're trying to get. So we've decided to go with this because this is really kind of a common practice in the pro AV industry, doing these single line, just simple ASCII text string commands to send back and forth from the amplifier. In total, if you add everything up across all the channels, all the different parameters, there's over 500 points of control and monitoring that you can tie into. Pretty much everything that you've got in the web UI plus some other sensors and features in the back end you have the ability to tie into. So this will be pretty powerful and hopefully something fairly easy to get going until we get some more of those official modules and plugins going for third-party control equipment. So some of the nomenclature here, just how we're going to describe things. You've got an element. So an element is an item in the amplifier that can be controlled and or monitored. You've got a control, so meaning this is an element that can be controlled and monitored. So you've got read and write. You've got a sensor, which is an element that can only be monitored. So something like the temperature that you can only read it. You're not going to tell the amp what its temperature is. And you've got an object, which is a grouping of elements. So you may have several elements that are kind of tied together in a certain way, and that's what we would call an object. So within our TCP protocol, you'll be able to get values either from a controller or a sensor. You'll be able to set values, obviously on controls only. And then you'll be able to subscribe or unsubscribe to pretty much everything in there. So you can subscribe, so it's always posting its value. And the subscriptions, the way it works is they will only report if a change has been made. So it's not just constantly blasting out the same information. So something that we've been using for testing here and something that we've seen a lot of people in the industry use, this is a free tool called Packet Sender. So we've been able to set this up and we can just send, simple ASCII strings like our protocol here to a certain IP address over that port. So we've been able to test the full functionality of this. So just something we wanted to highlight. It's a nice free tool. It allows you to do several other things with regards to sending packets and receiving packets from a network. So pretty helpful tool here. Just an example, I set up a couple commands in here, send back and forth to the amplifier. So that was all via network connection. We do have an I/O port on the back of the amplifier that you can also do some simple third-party integration with. So we do have 2 ports here. So the first port with the green dashed line, this is a fault status. It's actually a heartbeat. So it's a 5-volt heartbeat signal. So it pulses 5 volts. When the amplifier is on, it's healthy. There's no faults, no events. And if the heartbeat is gone, then it means either the amplifier is off or you've got a problem. So you've got a fault that you need to go investigate. So you can hook it up to something just as simple as an LED. Or you can actually hook this up to the GPI port of a third-party system and be able to program that in. So if you need to get a little bit, more easy kind of manual connection for integration, you've got some options here. The second port in the red dashed lines, this is to remote power on and off the amplifier. So it's a simple contact closure. It's just a dry closure to turn the amp on and off. So if you close the circuit, the amplifier shuts off. And if you open the circuit, then the amplifier will turn back on and stay on. So that was a little bit on third-party integration. Certainly it was a little brief. If you guys have questions, we'll type those into the chat. We'll get to them at the end of the presentation. The next section here, we're going to go through the LEA Professional Cloud. So this is something we are in the final testing phases in right now. This is something we hope to be live to the public within the next 4 to 5 weeks. So with this, you will get full monitoring, full control, and analytics possibilities in the future as we open up some more packages and the future additions to this. It's a really robust platform. It's not just something that we're using for saving settings or retrieving settings. Everything that you have access to in the local web UI, you will get full access to through the cloud, through a secure connection. So extremely powerful what we're doing with the cloud. The cloud is going to work with all of our Connect series amplifiers. So what we're going to do is in the next firmware update or two, we will release a new firmware that will give you the ability to onboard the amp into the cloud. You'll be able to go set up an account and then set up venues within the cloud. And I'm going to show you a demonstration of this in just a little bit here. So you get, like I said, the full web UI functionality, but then you do go another layer back. So instead of just your amplifier list view, you'll be able to set up multiple venues and then onboard your amplifiers into the appropriate venue within the cloud. Our cloud is running on AWS or Amazon Web Services. On board our devices, we're using a specific platform from AWS called IoT Core. So this is something that Amazon helps manage. We chose this for quite a few reasons. Some of them are listed here. One of the big ones was security. So all of our security is done through a secure SSL encryption. It's 256-bit. It's certificate-based, so all of our amplifiers get issued and managed certificates from AWS. It's a really scalable system. So as we start off and maybe a few people join in and get their amps up, say we ramp up very quickly, lots of customers want to add in, we can scale our back-end resources and scale up whatever we need to do as quickly as possible to manage the traffic and the users that are coming in. So very easy to grow this as more people adapt to it. We have seen as well that AWS is really one of the most accepted clouds from an IT management standpoint. So the IT professionals, the CIOs, CTOs, if you're using the cloud, AWS seems to be in the lead there. So that was a nice one for us. There's also a lot of development, especially within Pro Audio for the cloud coming in the future. So even Analog Devices, which makes DSP chips, is working on some things to get their DSP, the actual processors, talking directly to the cloud with minimal hardware in between. So some interesting things that should open up for the Pro AV world in the future with regards to the cloud. So when we release this. Sorry, could you mind muting your microphone if you got your mic? Anyway, sorry about that. So when we first release our cloud, it is going to be completely free to all of our customers, and it will be the exact same functionality that you get today in the web UI. So we're starting off there, and then we're going to build out some more advanced things in the future that you can only do in the cloud. So things like analytics packages will be available in the future, as well as some other more advanced features. But these will come for a price. So you will always have the free version available that gives you what you got in the local. And then things that'll really eat up data and actually add some cost to us, we will be charging for those in the future. So although we do have quite a high level of security for our cloud from the beginning, we do have the ability to customize this on kind of a project per project basis. We can do some work on this. This will come as well at a cost though. So if you need to do something more in the lines of government work or some high-level enterprise security, we do have the ability to customize this per account. There's also quite a few server locations around the world. So there's about 70 locations globally. Amazon is adding more. They've got a roadmap of new server spots that they're adding up, which I will go through in this next slide. So quite a few locations. So the whole idea is that wherever you are located in the world, you'll be close enough to a server so that you have a minimal latency time. So we don't want to add extra delay by hosting some piece of hardware in a closet in our office. This is on Amazon's own servers. We'll open up as many of them as we can to give everybody minimal latency times for their connections. Within the U.S., there's 22 locations. There's a couple in Canada, and there's 3 in Brazil for Latin America. There's a few around EMEA, with a few more coming, and quite a few locations in APAC as well. So with the cloud, there's no software, no apps to download. It works similarly to the web UI. Of course, you do need an internet connection on both your amplifier and the device that you're connected to. But the nice thing with the cloud is it doesn't interfere with the local web UI either. So you can run the cloud and the local web UI simultaneously, and you see the feedback and the control and monitoring will mirror in both spots. So a bit of our development plan here. So in spring, like I said, we're hoping within the next 4 to 5 weeks, we'll have this available to the public to start using. You'll have basically the same functionality that you have in the web UI. You will have 1 user access level from a security standpoint, so 1 user per account. Once we do our second our first upgrade, I should say, we're going to be adding quite a few more things. So you'll be able to do grouping of parameters. So you'll be able to assign amplifiers or channels to a group and get group level controls. So a single point of control to hit multiple channels or multiple amplifiers. We'll be adding over-the-air firmware updates. So we as LEA will not push the updates directly to the amps, but we will push the update to the cloud, and then you'll get a notification saying that, hey, your firmware, there's a new version available, and you as the user of the account decide when you want to push that down to your amps. We're also going to be adding multiple user access levels. So you'll be able to really fine tune on your account multiple users, which venues they have access to, which amps, which parameters, and really fine tune how you want to lock that down. We are also going to be adding snapshots. So this is really venue presets. So this is a very easy way to take a snapshot which will record all the settings from all parameters of all amplifiers in your venue, and very easily be able to recall those, edit them, store them, delete them, whatever you want to do. We are also going to be adding support and integration with IFTTT. If you don't know what IFTTT is, it stands for if this, then that. It's essentially a cloud middleware that connects, there's over 600 companies that have integrated with this. So you get all sorts of really nice integrations. So if we integrate in with IFTTT, you automatically get integration with all of the other services that are there without having to do any custom programming. It's a very easy kind of graphic interface, but you get all sorts of nice features and functionality like scheduling. You can tie in with Google Calendar, Office 365 Calendar. You can set up all types of alerts and notifications. So email, text, SMS messaging, push notifications through the IFTTT app. You can do things like geofencing to trigger certain actions to take place. You can also integrate with lots of other IoT devices. So all sorts of temperature sensors, building management sensors, thermostats. There's a whole slew of equipment and other companies that are joining the IFTTT program there. So some of the benefits of the cloud, we've really seen a huge trend in the industry towards, dealers and installs, the integrators are offering service contracts. So we think this is a huge benefit for dealers that are doing service contracts. So now being able to get remote monitoring of your amplifiers, remote control, without having to add a VPN, no extra computer needed that you're sort of doing a screen share or something with. But even larger organizations. So if you're more of a global or organization, or you've got offices all over the country, well, now a single AV person in charge can manage all of their venues at different locations and be able to see the amplifiers and monitor them and see what's going on. There's a whole slew of environmental benefits, you know, not having to send technicians to site, you know, kind of without any information. Now you can go in, you know, check some monitoring, pull your load monitoring of the speakers, and go to site a lot more prepared than you have been before. So really, you know, we see this as a huge opportunity for this trend of integrators doing service contracts. So with that, I'm going to jump out of the deck for a second. I'm going to bring up a demo here. Hopefully you guys can still see my screen. So what I've got on the left here, I've got 3 amps that I've got locally connected. So let me reload to the right one here. Oh, it is on that one. Okay. So I got this amp here, 192.168.1.234. What I've got is, I'll log out of this first. So I've got my amps connected locally here. And what I've done here is I've logged into our, we've got our development for the cloud platform here. So you can go in here, you create an account. All you need to do that is an email address and a password. We're not trying to collect any data here. We just want you to get secure access to your account. So I can do, since I've already registered, I'll just enter my details here and sign in. So now what you see here is I've got my venue view. So I created this Bradley's Desk Dev Environment venue here. On the left, you've got the green bar, just like you got on the amplifiers here. You've got your emoji, and it tells you how many amps out of the total are online. So what this does in the venue view is takes an aggregate view of all the amplifiers you got in your venue. In this case, I only have 1. But if any of those amps are disconnected, it would show red here, and it'll give you the total number that are still online just below that. Right now, all the amps in my venue are happy, so there's no faults, there's no events. But again, if you have multiple amps here and any one of them had a fault or an event, it would display that here on the venue view. So you get a very quick glance if you've got multiple venues to kind of see what's going on, if anything's faulted or there's an event, or if any amps are offline, you get a chance to see that here very quickly. So if I click on the venue here, then you can see I've got my 1 amplifier here, which is the same amp that I've got connected in my local. So if I click on this, I can go into my channels here. So you can see we're on the same channel. So if I adjust some of the gain here, so I adjusted my output gain, you can see the fader here is now at minus 38.1. It snapped over pretty quickly here on the local. Let's say I go here and I mute all the channels here. This will push up to the cloud. Should take a second. So this is why we're still testing. I might have lost connection there. But anyway, this is a full 2-way communication when it is working. This is why we're still testing. Back and forth from the cloud. There, the gain just moved there. So something going on with the mutes. But anyway, so within here, it is the full, everything like you're used to seeing in the local web UI. You get that available through the cloud. So it's all your controls, all your monitoring, all your meters, everything available here with a fairly minimal latency, depending on the server you're connected to. So one thing I will show you, once we're in the venue view here, if you want to add an amplifier, what you'll do is click on this Add Amp button. What this will do is it brings up a token. So this is a token that is created through a third party outside of Amazon. So we're getting some third party validation here. What I'll do is copy this token. Now I come back to my local web UI. So I go to this amp. Now if I click on the amp info button, there will be a new button at the top here with our new firmware coming out soon to say connect amp to account. So if I click on this, now I would just paste this token in here and click register. Now what that'll do is it will go out, communicate with Amazon, it validates that the token is accurate, and then Amazon will issue a certificate to the device and register it to this venue. So this is how you go in. So you do this initially just 1 amp at a time. Once they're initially loaded in, you don't need to do anything else. The amps will always show up in that venue. So you make a mistake or you put something in the wrong venue or you want to just remove it, you can actually go here now in the cloud side, if you click on the AMP info button, and now you get a remove AMP feature. So if I click on this, this will take me in here. Are you sure you want to remove this? It tells me the name of the AMP, the IP address. I could click remove, and then it would just deregister it from the cloud. This will disappear, but I still get the local web UI. So that is what we've got for the cloud demo there. What I'm going to do now is just come back into the deck here. I've got a couple more slides to just show you. But you know, one of the things, you know, obviously all of us, or almost all of us, are working from home. You know, we see the cloud here is really a good potential to avoid you know, unneeded time on site during this these crazy times that we're in. You know, so minimizing your site on time, your on-site time as a technician, as a, you know, trying to troubleshoot something. You know, you can connect to the devices from anywhere you've got an internet connection, monitor your input-output levels, check the speaker health with load monitoring, you know, make any necessary DSP changes all remotely. So really being able to troubleshoot your speakers or your amplifiers from off-site can really help minimize time on-site, and maybe even prevent a trip on-site where it's not needed. You know, I've been called in my old job to some sites for projects I've done that say, oh, the audio's not working, and you know, fly all the way there and turn out they just had it muted and didn't even realize. So just click one button. So, you know, save yourself a flight or a trip with the cloud here. You know, going back to the service contracts and recurring revenue, you know, we just kind of wanted to show an example of this if, you know, you're not used to this. And, you know, there's a lot of potential revenue you could get as a company going to a recurring revenue service contract. So on the left example here, say we got a coffee shop install. It's a single venue, and the customer agrees to $50 a month charge. Well, over the course of the year, that's $600. So now you've got the ability to monitor, do all of your control remotely, and hopefully get them up and running without much time on site. Or if there is something that is broken, now you've got more information. You know which channel, which speaker is not working, and you can go to site a bit more prepared. Let's say you expand this out. Now that this coffee owner's got 20 locations, well, still at $50 a month, $600 a year per venue. Well, that works out to you know, $12,000 a year. So really some nice opportunities there from a revenue perspective. So with that being said, you know, we are a new company, but we do want to highlight, you know, a couple nice projects that we've done recently. I won't take too much of your time going through this, but we do have 3 nice venues here that we've just installed in the last, call it month or two. The first one here is the Canada Goose Experience Center, and this is in their flagship store in Toronto. So we got 6 of the Connect Series 354Ds there. This is a really great experience. You can go try on all their jackets, go in the cold rooms, and they've got audio running in all their rooms, zoned out pretty nicely with our amps there. We did a kind of nightclub bar. It's called Cam's Bar. They had 6 704Ds. They've got it zoned out in 5 zones. It's a really incredible bar in the area. I think one of our guys, Brian Pickowitz, is not too far from where he grew up. So this is a pretty nice spot. They've been running it pretty hard until recently. And then we've got the Bridge Church. So just a couple amps there, but they do have it set up in 4 zones. This was a new construction church. They were very happy with the system. I think they got a couple gatherings there before they've had to, you know, kind of shut down or limit their people coming in. But a couple nice things we've got going on there, and hopefully a lot of you guys will install some nice projects going forward, and you know, we'd be happy to do some press, talk about them. If you guys get any great projects, and you're happy to share that with us. So with all that, you know, the cloud, it's coming in the next 4 to 5 weeks. We say spring, but we're really just in the final stages of testing and finalizing everything here. So look out for that in the next few weeks. With that being said, I'm just going to turn it back over to Scott, who's got a little bit of a sales and housekeeping announcement, and then we'll take some questions just at the end of that.
Great. Thank you, Bradley.
Thank you.
So just wanted to say thank you very much for your time, and thank you, Bradley. It's a great presentation. For U.S. dealers that are on the call, we would love to do business with you if we have not already started doing that. We've reimagined the dealer onboarding process. To become a dealer for LEA, you just visit the sales partners section of our website. There's a very simple 3-minute form that you fill out, and that gets the process started. And then we work with the local rep, and we can start a relationship to start working with you in your market. Also in that sales partner section is a listing of all of our U.S. reps. So if you want to know who your rep is to get some local support and local contact, you can find them there. The final thing I'd like to say is that we do have a promotional campaign going on called Make the Switch. Make the Switch to LEA. It is worth 10% off to our U.S. dealers for giving us a shot. And that's really all we ask is give us a try. We have thousands of amps now in the field with very happy customers now. You saw the win stories. And our request is give us a shot, and we will not let you down if you try us on a project. So with that, that's all I have to say. I know that there's been several questions being asked in the chat line. If there's anything, either Brian or Bradley, that you want to add from those questions, please feel free to do so. And if anybody does have a question, please feel free to unmute yourself and ask the question if you'd like.
Yes, I got a question.
Okay.
When you mentioned it, that speaker tunes, that means you have the presets for every brand or models of the speakers?
So that is something we are working with quite a few speaker manufacturers to get tunings made. Some of them are a little easier to create than others, but we are working with quite a few of them to put settings specifically made for our amplifiers.
Okay, thank you.
Bradley, can you talk a little bit more about security functionality? Once a venue is connected to the cloud and the integrator is monitoring, what kind of security is in place to keep, hacking and somebody from taking over control?
Yeah, so I mentioned some of that before, but essentially the way you register the amp, there's a third-party created token that Amazon does a validation with, and then Amazon Web Services issues every device a certificate. So it's doing full 256-bit encryption, individual certificates on every device that are on the network. So it keeps everything extremely secure and encrypted going back and forth, but it does a lot of the necessary third-party validations to issue those certificates as well to keep for a lot of the security requirements out there. So it's not just a self-signed certificate, it's a third-party validated certificate.
Thank you.
All right, well, if no one's got anything else, just want to thank you all for your time. If you got any questions, feel free to reach out to Scott, Brian, Joey, myself, or your local distributor, representative, rep, whoever that might be. And we've got people from all over the world here. So thanks so much for your time, and hopefully you guys will take a look and start using the cloud once we release it in the next month.
Yes,
Thank you all very much for your time.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Great job, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care.
All right, take care. Bye.
Bye. Bye.